Okay, we are in. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the final day, day 6 of the Global Happy Homes Summit, where I'm so pleased to say and so grateful that so many experts and leaders and professionals and practitioners from all over the world have really gathered together and joined forces to provide as much support and value to families like yours to help you still thrive during this time of all the challenges that you might be facing. So I have Dr. Kim here with me this afternoon. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
That's okay. And where are you joining from?
I'm joining from San Diego, California in the United States.
Yeah, beautiful. I know when all my family just can't speak more highly of San Diego. They actually love that city. So
Yeah,
nice place to live.
it is. It was pouring rain all day today.
Was it? Okay.
But it was nice because, we're all inside. So it was nice to enjoy it without having to go anywhere. But yeah, normally the weather is just, really great. But yeah, it was nice to get some rain. The state needs it too. So
Yeah. We've got to have it all, don't we?
yeah.
So, Dr. Kim, can you please just share with everybody who you are and, what you get to do in this world?
Sure, absolutely. So I do have my doctorate in psychology. That's why I go by Dr. Kim. And I am a mom of 2. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. So I'm pretty much mommy full time, all day, every day. And then I also am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm a registered play therapist. I teach at the university, so I'm a professor as well. And I am a blogger. I have my own parenting and lifestyle blog and social media presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I also work part-time right now, exclusively working with autistic children and their parents and families. So that's been really rewarding. Like I was saying earlier, most of my clients have all switched now to telehealth. And so that's been something new I've been working on the last couple of weeks with all of my clients. So yeah, that's pretty much sums up what I do.
Yeah, and what an incredible amount of experience and knowledge base and love that. And you're the absolute perfect person to be here discussing everything that this global summit, this Happy Home Summit stands for, and the importance of family and what we need to know to create that happy home and that healthy home with our children. So, Dr. Kim, I'd love to know, based on your clients and who you're seeing and speaking with at the moment, what have been the challenges that you're seeing or that people are saying to you or coming to you with in the last week or two?
One of the biggest things and one of the first things that comes to mind is the energy of the children at home. Obviously children will pick up if parents have anxiety, which, this has been very anxiety provoking, this whole situation. So if the parents are obviously, everyone's in a different spot. Most parents are working from home. If a parent was already working at home, it's still going to be different because the other partner might be at home now. The kids are at home. You're incorporating homeschooling. So there's a tremendous amount of pressure, stress. You don't have much relief to go outside, except for your own maybe, local neighborhood. But even running to the store is, a bigger issue now. Beaches are closed, theme parks are closed, parks are closed. So finding activities to keep the children busy during the day has been one of the biggest things. And because of the additional anxiety and because of the, the pressure, stress levels are up and the kids are picking up on that. So a lot of the behaviors are just kind of all over the place, really. And so kids are being, hyperactive because they're bored and almost their bodies are overcompensating for that. And then parents finding things to do with their kids during the day because before when they'd be in school, let's say all day, they would only have maybe a few hours in the afternoon to get homework, bath, dinner, and maybe an hour of free time done. But now they're basically having 24 hours a day, except for when they're sleeping, to do continuous activities and keeping them busy while also maybe working and doing their other responsibilities too. So it's been a struggle.
Yeah, sure. And so for you, it's really been around keeping the children busy and knowing how to still get their needs met during that day,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. And also the emotional component, honestly, I've seen this with my own daughter. She's been doing her online schooling this week. And it was touching. Her teacher broke down today on the computer because all the kids kept saying that we miss you and we love you and we wish we didn't have to, we wish we could go back to school. And it's very confusing for them, especially at certain ages, why they can't go back to schools. And some older children are angry because they can't go back to school. They're missing out on their senior prom and their, graduations, and they can't see their friends. And so a lot of kids are very confused. They're angry. They're frustrated. So a lot of the emotional components, in addition to, the boredom aspect, has been playing a big part and a big role in some of these, families' lives.
Yeah, sure. And, these are probably, they're unique issues where we're in really unique circumstances. However, it also is not so unique in terms of the behaviors that we end up seeing from children when stress increases in the home too. So I feel like, whatever you're suggesting with your parents is going to help even after this experience and during. So what are the helpful things that parents need to be aware of right now and start to reflect on and learn about?
Sure. One of the first things I tell parents, and this goes for pretty much any, like you said, any type of additional stress in the home or just in general, really, but I tell parents not to wing it. I tell parents you have to be prepared. You have to plan out your day, the next day in advance. You have to, whether it's a to-do list or schedule. I actually just came up with this today. For my children, you can kind of see it, but I have, the visual so they can see the picture. And then I have, different things like, get dressed, make their bed, brush their teeth.
Sure.
And then they can check it off through the day. I laminate it so I can just erase it and start over the next day and keep reusing it. And I know this is for children, obviously, but I teach parents to do the same thing because I feel like even for myself, the more prepared I am, the less chaotic the day will be. It's hard to plan everything at every moment. Obviously the day is very fluid, but having as much preparation in advance, I think, will lower stress levels down, especially for parents. Kids love structure. They thrive on it. They love that routine. They're used to it being in school and things like that. So it really helps parents and children alike. One other big thing I always stress is taking breaks throughout the day, getting some fresh air breaks, maybe some quick, even 5-minute jumping jack exercise breaks for kids and parents, just to keep the movement flowing. And then also just any other type of self-care breaks, throughout the day, and just whether it's for children or parents, but having the self-care component too. And that could just mean as little as going to the cupboard and getting a piece of chocolate and enjoying it for a few minutes, in quietness. Or, I know we implement a quiet time during the day. My son naps and my daughter goes in her room for a little bit. And I just lay on the couch for 15, 20 minutes and I don't go on my phone. I don't talk to clients. I just really just take a break, a breather and some quietness. And just, it's, a really great part of my day till I can, reboot and recharge,
Sure.
Yeah.
And not only, and I love that you've got the, the family side and the parent therapist side, but also, marriage and that partnership and how crucial that is to the dynamic of a home. So we've got, what for you, what are the issues that you find most prominent between mums and dads, and, maintaining that solid foundation, but also in the parenting of children? It comes with a lot of conflict, and I know that this is something that I have to work through with my families and parents often too. So what do you find comes up a lot in terms of that mum and dad relationship?
Sure. And I giggle because, even myself, my husband is actually also a marriage and family therapist. We actually met in grad school and we were getting our doctorate. So, having two MFTs in the house together, people think that really helps. And sometimes it's almost makes it harder, but,
Sure.
I think the biggest thing for us is that, at least over the last year, even though I've been working, I work from home. So, I have a pretty set routine throughout the day of, how the house is run from 8 in the morning till 8 p.m. or whatever time he is that he's gone. And now that he's working from home, it's disrupted that routine a little bit. He worked in school, so he was technically on spring break the last 2 weeks. And so, he didn't have as much to do. And so I was doing my routine. And I think sometimes, not necessarily in my case, but I think sometimes some resentment can build up between two partners because maybe the roles aren't defined as they were before. Roles are fluid and roles are switching around right now. And so both partners are not sure exactly what role they fit in anymore. You know, who's actually the one doing the dishes now, and the laundry and the childcare and the homeschooling, and there's so many components and they're constantly moving. I think when the roles aren't defined, it brings that tension and that resentment and, you know, together, because no one knows where their place is anymore. You know, my husband, for instance, is going stir crazy because he's used to being out all the time. And so being home is confining him. And so his stressors are going up because he has that anxiety about not getting out. And for me, you know, it's the opposite. So, you know, finances, I know, has been an issue with a lot of parents I work with. Some of my parents I work with are out of a job right now, or they're getting less hours because of it. So I know some of them are having trouble paying their bills, and finances has raised a lot of the stress and anxiety in the home, and a lot of arguments and what they're spending their money on during this time, you know, things like that. So, so I think, you know, the biggest advice that I give them and the biggest take home is to define your roles as quickly as possible. So everyone knows exactly where their spot is in the home and who's responsible for what, and to maybe look at their budget and actually sit down and take care of those big things first. And then some other things will fall into place when some of those big anxiety busters are down. Then the other little things won't build up as quickly and become things.
Sure. Especially when you feel on the same team as your partner, especially around finances, you know, that is a huge source of conflict in a lot of marriages and relationships. And what about the parenting aspect of mums and dads? And, you know, that's very different. Mums do parent different. Dads do often parent different, which is absolutely perfect. But it does still cause resentment and conflict and misunderstanding. So what are the common issues that you see, and, you know, how to weave through that and end up on the same page or just understanding each other?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, having that conversation, not taking the different parenting roles for granted, accepting that just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. I think that's the biggest thing, because even like I said, in our home, I do the majority of the parenting. You know, I take my daughter to school, I pick her up, I help with the homework, and I do most of that. And again, my husband is a great dad, and, you know, he just, my kids love him, you know, but he parents very differently. So he's more the playful one. So a lot of times when I want her to get her homework done and they're fooling around and, you know, having fun, or they're out riding bikes or whatever they're doing, and I'm sitting here going, okay, like she has to work on her homework, you know, and he's like, but we're on break, like we're, you know, and I'm like, no, but we need some structure. So, you know, like I said, our parenting roles in different ways have meshed. I know I've experienced that with some of my clients too, and how it's just different, you know. So like I said, the biggest take home that I keep telling my clients, and I tell myself, is just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. I think it's just more in our faces now, because before, when he was only home a couple hours in the evening, or, you know, before school maybe, you didn't really see it as much. Things were able to just pass by a little easier, because then, you know, they left the home or they're off to work or whatever it is. But when you're both home 24/7, it just, it's more exposed. You see it a lot quicker and you see it a lot more because the longevity's there. So like I said, just keeping that in mind and just being patient. Honestly, I just, you know, taking breaks from each other throughout the day. You know, he'll go in the garage for a couple hours while I stay in, and vice versa. I'll take the kids on a walk while he has some time at home. So I think just taking those breaks even from each other throughout the day, because you're not, at least my household, we're not used to being together 24/7 like this. No, not many people are, especially with the kids home and we're all home. So again, this is a very unique situation. But I think everyone having breaks from each other during the day, from partners, from children and parents, from, you know, just everyone having a break in the house. I think having those, it's actually healthier. People think, oh no, I don't want to offend anyone, or, you know, make them feel bad because I don't want to be around them. It's not, it's actually helping. It's actually healthy to take breaks from each other, you know, and in this case especially.
Yeah, and thank you for raising that. The guilt and the guilt around, you know, wanting to take time out for yourself is a big thought and a loop that seems to happen for a lot of parents. So it's good that we keep bringing this up and just bringing the awareness on that it's, you're doing it for the benefit and the well-being of your whole family if you do that. So for you, Dr. Kim, what is the foundation of a great family dynamic? And, you know, I know that you said everybody knowing their roles is really crucial. But I guess I'm curious as to, you know, in that, what are the questions that parents come to you the most? You know, what really keeps them up at night that they just can't seem to figure out?
About children's behavior, or about just the roles in the family, or just the children's behavior? You know, I think the biggest thing that I've seen is, especially in this particular context and what we're dealing with right now, you know, in the world, is how do I help my child understand what's going on in the world right now? Mm-hmm. You know, like I said, keeping them busy has been a big thing. You know, activities, especially if they have to work. What are some independent things that kids can do while I get something done? And if it's just, you know, cooking dinner or something like that. But, you know, what can I do to build their resiliency? You know, what can I do to keep them positive through all of this? You know, what can they do to be a contributor, to help to the situation? A lot of times, you know, we're all, many of us are I won't say stuck at home, but we're placed in homes right now. And there's some essential workers out there. Obviously there's, you know, a lot of people that are still working out there because that's their role. But how do we not take a back seat in a passive role to what's going on? How can I empower my children to feel like they're making a difference right now, even though they're at home or they may only be 5 years old, but how can they feel like this isn't taking over their world, and that they can still be a part of it and feel like they're making a change or a solution to what's going on right now? So those are kind of the things of what I've heard with parents, instead of just, like I said, keeping them busy and, you know, trying to balance everything out, you know, work, life, homeschool balance, you know, marriage. And then just, like I said, one thing I've been mentioning to parents is, like I said, not just taking breaks and things like that, but spending intentional time with children for a certain amount of time during the day, especially maybe in the morning first thing. So the children kind of have their cup full at the beginning of the day, and they feel very fulfilled. They feel loved. They feel comforted and secure. And then you can go on with your day and, you know, do your work or do other things you have to do, responsibilities around the house. But if you fill your children's cup up at the beginning of the day, then you have a little more freedom to do some of those things throughout the day without them saying, mom, 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 and needing you like every moment. Or you feeling like you're guilty because you can't spend that time with them, or feel like you're rejecting them. And that goes for spouses too. If you don't want to spend time with them in that moment, it's not because you want to reject them. It's like you said, just take time for yourself, or whatnot. So I've been suggesting to parents to have that time first thing in the morning with them, almost have like a little mommy-daughter date or a son-dad date, or, you know, vice versa, or, you know, whatever the family dynamic looks like. You know, have that in the morning, make it very intentional, very meaningful, and just for 30 minutes, just playing on the floor with them, reading them a book, you know, whatever it is. And then being able to fill their cup up and then start with the rest of your day, whatever that may look like, before things get too busy, too crazy, too stressful, you know, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, perfect. I like that, the start of the day routine and filling their cup. It's a great idea. How important is it for the parent-child relationship to be connected for that child's future, you know, for them growing up into a teen, into adulthood?
Oh, very much so. I actually just wrote a blog last week on attachment and giving my top 5 ways that parents can spend their time with children to build a positive relationship with them. And it does. There's so many benefits to attachment, and it starts very early on in age. I always talk about how attachment starts with conception, really, you know, and you can attach with your baby, you know, when they're in the womb and as they're growing in the womb, and then of course after. So the sooner you can start, the better, to build that relationship. But I did just write, you know, a blog about that, I think last week actually. So that's pretty fresh on the blog if people were to look it up. Yeah. But it's very important. It's very important for, you know, for their self-worth. For you know, self-esteem, things like that, building social skills and relationships with others, whether it's a friend at school, whether it's a potential partner later on in life. You know, there's long-term benefits to early attachment that benefits children throughout their entire lives and until they become, you know, adults as well.
And do you, because we use connection a lot of the time, And I know, I've come from a social worker background. So, attachment styles and attachment parenting and attachment theory is strong in my mind as well. Is attachment and connection similar or the same when we're thinking about parent-child relationships?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's one of the most important components to being a parent. I think it's just to raising children and raising, secure children. Like I said, the benefits of just the parent-child relationship are there, children's, like I said, self-worth and things like that. But then also other things like academics, how they do in school, how they perform in school, just their overall competence, feeling confident about themselves, overall confidence to accomplish things later in life. There's a balance between, the attachment and then also letting them feel secure enough to be able to go off and maybe take a risk or do something on their own, and then knowing they can come back to you for help, support, questions, things like that. So it's all very important, and I think right now is a very opportune time for parents to take this time that we have while we are all under the same roof for as long as we will be, and actually really work on that. Like I said, even just for 30 minutes a day to really to really bond with your child in different ways. And I have some ideas, like I said, on my website for specifics, but, to really take this time right now, because once our lives go back to whatever new normal it's going to be, and we're on the go a lot, or we're doing different things and kind of life somewhat gets in the way of, taking this time right now and, while you're all under the same roof, like really utilizing this time intentionally to build a strong attachment with your child. If you already have one, great, continue it on, keep it going in that direction. If you don't feel like you have a secure attachment with your child, this is a great time to start one, despite their age,
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's definitely one of the opportunities within this whole challenge that we're facing based on the extra time. So for parents that might be feeling a bit stressed at the moment and a bit anxious, a bit worried, maybe there are a few more arguments with their partner, maybe they're not understanding their child's behaviors and becoming a little more irritable and maybe yelling a little more than what they would like to. What are some helpful ways to start reducing that stress? I mean, what do we need to be doing or understanding about our own mind possibly to help reducing that stress?
Right. I would suggest a couple of things. One would be to honestly take one day at a time. I know that sounds it's very cliche and it sounds, a lot easier said than done. I get that. But really, honestly, don't look too far ahead. Don't try and figure out when is this going to be over? When can I, just really take one day at a time and just focus on what you can accomplish in one day. Set some small goals for yourself. Some things that can be achievable. I'm going to have my child read 2 books to me today. That's it. I'm going to have, dinner made by 6 p.m. Great. You may not know what you're having for dinner, but your goal can just be, I'm going to have dinner on the table by 6 p.m. period. It could just be pizza or whatever it is, but you have, so little goals that you can accomplish, each day. Again, prepping the night before, doing some daily affirmations. I think those are very powerful. I've seen with myself and my clients, friends, and whatnot, is doing some daily affirmations saying, I can get through this. We are going to get through this. It's going to be okay. Things like that. I have a whole list again on my website, that I wrote, but some daily affirmations are very, very helpful. And then, celebrating wins throughout the day, even if it's a small win, I gave my child a hug today. I mean, I know that sounds very simplistic, but really just awesome. I gave my child a hug today, I had dinner on the table by 6 p.m. That's a win. My child read 2 books to me. That's a win. Whatever the case may be, really celebrate any win that you get during the day that makes you feel good about yourself, and really focus on it and praise yourself for it. And, and trying to keep as much positivity as possible. I think the daily affirmations help with that, but just really trying to limit the media, limit things that take up your time that aren't needed, that aren't healthy for you, and really just keeping as positive mindset as possible.
Yeah. I agree, in limiting the things that are not serving us to then focus more on what we do want and do have, because that will indeed get you through this. And so you mentioned that you are doing work with children with autism and their families at the moment. And, that's certainly something that, is very close to my heart. I work very closely with children that have various diagnoses and needs too. So have the challenges been similar with these families and these children? What are you finding that, needs to happen for these children, if any different?
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually been harder or easier. I think everyone's had their own struggle. You know what I mean? That's sure. If I compare it just to my life, or maybe if I compare all my clients together, some are having a little bit easier time maybe than others. Sure, absolutely. We can't compare our lives with each other because they're all very different and everyone's facing different challenges. But yes, I have had some parents that are having some pretty significant challenges right now. Mostly, with because of the work that we do, and I work with one-on-one aides that usually come into their home and do in-person sessions up to maybe 25 hours a week. Yeah. And so they're very dependent on those people, those professionals coming into their home and working very strategically with their children, for many hours out of the day. And now we're not going into the homes anymore, at least for the time being, for at least a couple of weeks. And so the parents are feeling that extra pressure, to possibly fill that role, with that child who's used to a very, very strict routine. Mm-hmm. And when the routine is off, it's very difficult to get them back on track. And, and then just the parents that were outside the home and now they're in the home and they're trying to work and take care of their child at the same time with a lot of additional needs that maybe other children don't have as much. I know that it's been difficult for them. So they have very, very strong challenges that maybe other parents don't face. Maybe things that other parents don't even think about, other parents take for granted, things like that. But I do know some have struggled very, very hard not having that additional help around the house, especially when there's multiple siblings. And so now they're focusing maybe just on this child that has special needs or additional challenges versus the children that aren't. And that's been a struggle too, is finding the time for, let's say, all the siblings or both siblings when some have very, very different and more challenging needs. That's been hard too.
And I think that's a really incredible point that hasn't been raised yet during the summit, actually, Kim, because I would go into homes as well and conduct my therapeutic sessions with children in the homes. And quite often the siblings are incredibly jealous and they want the time too. And now that we've got all children in the home, and you're right, the focus may be on this particular child, but the other children still require that time too. And quite often I would have 5 or 10 minutes with the other children just so that it's all inclusive, so they get to feel important too, and they get to connect with me as well. So that's a really important, piece to raise here too. So interested to hear if anybody's, facing that at the moment or struggling with that at the moment. So you are a mum, Kim, and, you work from home and you do have a family to take care of. How are you juggling with the homeschooling and then the working from home and being home all of the time, and how's it working for you?
There's been good days and there's been not so good days. There's been some challenges, like I said, it's been hard trying to find your own groove, even just like I said, with my relationship with my spouse, the relationship, with my job, and now working more hours, like I said, because I'm transferring everyone to telehealth. So it's, like I said, different because some of the children I work with are very young and aren't, don't have the attention spans to sit on a Zoom call for an hour to 2 hours or 3 hours when their normal session at home would be that long. Parents are lost because they feel like they don't know how to compensate for the work that they don't want to let the goals that we were working towards in therapy to regress because the child's not getting the actual need, their goals met or their needs met. So parents are feeling a little lost with that, and homeschool and everything else. So with me, I feel like the first 3 weeks I had no homeschooling responsibilities. It was our spring break, and now this week has been homeschool. So that was another component that was just added on a few days ago for me. And to be honest, it's been a little easier because my husband's been home and hasn't been working as much. And so normally I do all these things with just me and he's gone all day. but now he's home. And so he's been able to help with some of the childcare when normally I'd be juggling it even more so because he wasn't around. But because I've been putting in extra hours, I've been working early in the morning, later at night. And so everyone's feeling it. You know, my kids will say, I miss you, or how come you're working so much, or how come you're spending time with other kids and not us? And, you know, things like that, which really puts on the mom guilt. So that's hard, you know, that's been hard. But like I said, you know, because of my, you know, what I do for a living, it's been a little bit easier for me to have that schedule for them, to have a schedule for me, and to really try and abide by the things that I preach and that I talk about with other parents, and kind of take a little of my own medicine. Because it's always a lot easier said than done, you know, to tell someone else to do something versus you doing it yourself. But yeah, there's definitely been better days, you know, and some hard days, but, you know, we're taking it a day at a time, and we're just trying to get through it and trying to work through some of the challenges and some of the kinks, and modifying as we go, and just trying, when the problem comes up, we try and solve it and then make tomorrow a little bit better, you know, than the day before.
And how are your children going with having now mum and dad as the teacher and the educator, as well as mum and dad? Because I know for me, you know, parents are talking to me around, you know, this role change can be a little confusing for children, and they may not like it. They may resist it. Some children may absolutely love it. But how are your children going with that role transition or change?
Yeah, you know, I think my daughter is excited more about it because, you know, the first day we did it, you know, she had her backpack, she packed her own lunch, she picked out an outfit for me to wear, like, oh, this is what a teacher would wear, and she picked out this like extravagant, like, this skirt and this top and, you know, and heels, and she's like, here, wear this to school. And I was just, you know, going down the hall, but she wanted me to wear it, so she was so excited, and which made me excited, you know. But then when her teacher actually started teaching her this week online, you know, she was a little confused. I had to explain it to her. Well, how come she's my teacher, but then she only comes on for like an hour a day, and then you're the one who does all the work with me? And she was a little confused of what role her other teacher had, what role I had. And so it was really taking that time to explain it to her and be patient. But, you know, she's pretty young, so she's in kindergarten. So, you know, for her, I think it was more exciting for her. But I know some of the parents I work with that have a little bit older children are having a little more resistance to their parents helping, especially the middle schoolers and high schoolers. You know, I don't want your help, mom. I don't want your help, dad. You know, you're not my teacher. You're not the one grading me type thing. I've been hearing a lot of those types of comments. And, you know, they're working through that. But I think at the younger age, it's a little more, you know, it's not as, but they're still a little confused about it more than resistant, you know.
And when you do meet that, when parents are meeting that resistance with their children, you know, absolute resistance really to them telling them to do anything with the school work, what are parents' approach with that? What are you suggesting that they do to, I guess, reduce that resistance?
Yeah, you know, that's a tough one. Depending on the age, it's tough, and what relationship the parent and the child had before this took place. You know, and how much, let's say, arguing or resistance was going on before this even took place. Because as we know, you know, teenagers are at an age where autonomy is very important, and they're already trying to break away from their parents a little bit. And so now they're kind of forced to be back at home. And it's just, I know it's been a struggle for a lot of parents that age. You know, so the first thing I suggest is to give the child space. Don't fight it. Don't get in a power struggle. Just let them have some time to kind of work it out kind of on their own, emotionally, mentally. And then, you know, obviously don't pick up a battle. You know, wait till they're in a calm spot, and then, you know, offer help, things like that. Some kids, you know, at a certain age can probably do most of it independently, you know, for the most part. But I think having a system and coming up with an agreement between the, let's say, teenager and the parent of saying, okay, well, you can do your work on your own, you know, through your whatever, you know, way they're doing it online with their school, but still having some type of system where the child still is able to give their work to their parent to maybe look over before they turn it in or something, and still having them be a part of it, but maybe taking a little bit lesser of a role. You know, type thing. I know some parents are using like a point system or like an allowance system where, you know, if they accomplish a certain amount of homework, you know, for that day and get their homework done, and the parent's allowed to check it before they turn it in, then they'll give them some sort of points or some kind of, you know, for the younger ones, maybe like a sticker, but like an allowance or something to say, okay, great job, you got your work done today, and then there's some type of reward that they get. Maybe it's an extra treat at dinner time, like for dessert or something. So they're using that kind of system so they feel like they're still a part of it, even if they're not helping the entire time. To reward their child for doing the work on their own and being independent enough to get it done and doing it right. And so the parent can still work with them in that way too.
Sure. I do
Yeah.
like, I'll often get parents, especially with teens, just to sit down and come up with an agreement between both parties, because, you know, we do need to empower our children, not take the power away. And,
Yeah.
you know, as long as we can both come to an agreement, then it's going to be a lot more peaceful within the home. So I think that's a really great idea. If you're struggling with your teens or with older children, in any aspect, to be honest, this can work with screen time as well.
Yeah.
You know, it can work with anything that you're trying to alter a little bit within your home.
Exactly.
So with while we start to wrap up here, Dr. Kim, is there anything that you feel like we haven't touched on that is worth mentioning, that you feel like is quite important for parents to know right now?
You know, you brought up something that I feel like is really important, especially right now with everything going on, is, you know, giving the children and the teens and so forth, that power, you know, giving them, letting them feel empowered by the situation. So I would say, you know, that's one of the most important things that they can benefit from right now. So what I tell parents with young children is, you know, a way to empower them where they feel like, because right now no one feels like they're in control, honestly, even adults. So, you know, to feel like they have some sense of control. For younger ones, parents with young children, I suggest giving them some choices throughout the day. Giving them too many may cause some, you know, overwhelming anxiety, but, you know, giving them one or two choices during certain parts of the day to just really feel like they have some control, they're making some choices in their life, because right now everything is very out of control. So, you know, whether it's asking my son between two different diapers, you know, which diaper do you want to wear, you know, today, or what two shirts out of these two shirts, which one do you want to wear today? Or here's the two vegetables I'm going to make for dinner tonight. Here's corn and here's peas. Which one do you want to have for dinner tonight? And letting them pick the vegetable for dinner. You know, things like that. Simple things where they can just pick between two different things that they're already going to eat vegetables for dinner. They're already going to wear a shirt, but which one do they wear? They get to pick between the two that you pick for them, type thing. And then, like I said, for older children, letting them feel like they're a part of what's going on in the world right now. So whether that means, I know I found something today on a website where you could write letters to essential workers. It was all online. You could just put your name, your email, and a little letter. And it was for a nonprofit, and they're going to send everything to some essential workers. They're going to put it in a card and then put it, I guess, in their box or whatever it is, however they're going to work it out, send it to the hospital or whatnot. But you can actually send letters. I actually did this with one of my teenage clients today. We sat down online together via Zoom, and we wrote letters to essential workers. And he felt like he was part of the process. He felt like he was doing something for, you know, bigger than himself, for the good of what's going on out there, and just made him feel a little more in control of the situation. To be a part of it, you know, leaving some snacks on your front porch for, you know, postal workers, or, you know, people ordering things from, you know, Amazon or different places, but feeling like they're helping people, and they're, you know, being part of some type of, you know, controlling some part of the situation that's going on right now.
Yeah, perfect. And I think everything that you've shared today are really important tips, not just for now, but for, you know, families and parenting in general. So that's what you can certainly take away from this conversation moving forward. So, Kim, I like to finish off with two questions. Been asked every speaker. So the first one is, for you in your world, in your personal life, what have been the opportunities out of COVID-19? What have been, you know, the magical moments or the experiences that maybe wouldn't have happened without COVID-19 happening?
You know, I don't really, I would say I joke about this. I don't really joke about it, but I think I'm maybe one of the only human beings that I've met so far that is going to miss this time. You know, I feel like my life is typically so busy where I'm always on the go. I'm not satisfied unless I am. I have always, the biggest thing I always get asked is, how do you balance it all? How do you do it all? Do you not sleep? Because I'm always literally going from one place to the next. I'm balancing 20 things at once, multitasking like a crazy woman. And I get it done, but, you know, my quality of life probably wasn't as good as it is now. Just stopping, and actually they say stop and smell the roses, but really just stopping and being more intentional with my time, prioritizing what I do during the day. It really made me slow down and not only spend more time with my kids and my family and, bond with them, and really spend more time, doing things with work, and not, running off driving to, somewhere every day type thing. So yeah, I'm really going to miss this time because I've been more intentional with my life. And I feel that I'm really going to miss this kind of slower pace for me. I'm still busy, but I feel like for some reason time has stopped a little, and it's given me a little bit of a gift to really think about what's the most important thing in my life right now, and where I really want to spend my time and my energy. And I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have slowed down on my own accord, so yeah.
And that's been definitely a common theme throughout the summit. And I think there's probably many people that will agree with you in that we wouldn't have slowed down on our own accord. And I love what you've said around maybe the quality of life wasn't there, but now that this has actually happened, it draws attention to that, and now you can create it. So that's a huge win. That's a huge win. And the final question is, what does a happy home look and feel like to you?
Oh, wow. I feel like the first thing that comes to mind is just smiles and physical attention. I know that I know I can go to bed at night and feel good about my home being happy and healthy when, I can just take time to give my kids hugs and kisses, and, and really just take time to, and if they're smiling and they're happy, that's really all that I need to feel like, okay, I may have not been the perfect mom that day. I may have not been the perfect spouse that day. I may not have been the perfect employee that day. But when I tuck my kids in at night and they're smiling and they say, I love you, mommy, thank you for something, I feel like, okay, I'm not perfect, but my kids love me and they're happy with me. And that's what keeps me going and what makes me feel like, that they're happy and they're healthy, and that makes me happy and healthy at the same time. So
yeah. Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Yes. And if people want to be able to read your blogs and find out more about your work, then where is the best place for them to reach you?
I would say I'm most active on Instagram. So if they have an Instagram account, my handle is @theparentologist, and they can find me there. I'm also on Facebook as well. I don't post as much there. I'm not as active there, but they can find me both places. And my blog is theparentologist.com. And that's where obviously I post all my blogs, and hopefully one of these days get some other things started. Hey, now maybe there's more time. I can actually do those big things on my list, like finally start writing my book or doing webinars and all those things I've been dreaming about. But eventually that's where all those things are going to be too. So I would say my website, and theparentologist.com, and then @theparentologist on social media.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for joining me this afternoon. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your knowledge around parenting and families, and what you come up with, what you face too, which will help so many families listening. So I wish you and your family all the best during this time too. And thank you again. And
thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And thanks for everyone joining. If you have any questions about anything that Dr. Kim has shared, any comments, then just place it below, and I'll make sure that if there are any questions, then Dr. Kim will be able to answer them. But goodbye for now, and bye.
Bye.
Thank you.